Hello, the game has started. It's me to go first. I haven't got a bingo, I have got scoring tiles. I'm wondering about Gaufed. I know Gauf is good, but I'm not sure if it takes DE at the end. I could play Waged, which would score well, but it would retain the F, and I'd like to play off the W and the F, so I can do that with WOF. And there is merit in a 3-letter play as opposed to a 5-letter play. They can be equivalent even when the 5-letter play has a much higher score, and the rack leave is reasonably balanced. WOF takes an S at the end. Close to a bingo, but I can't see a 7-letter one here. M-Page, not good. I think Megapode is good, and I do currently have that through the O of WOF, but that's almost certain to be taken out. However, this is a balanced rack. I do have scoring tiles. I should have plenty of options after my opponent has played. My opponent could change tiles, in which case Megapode could go down. I was just wondering, PI is good, DF not, so that was close. No new floaters to consider, except the I and the F. Neither of those helps. Now, Myth is good, so I am immediately drawn to playing across the top here. Again, I'm not sure if Gamped is good. Gamp is, but I'm not sure if it takes ED at the end. However, that's going to score reasonably well and not give very much away. And the rack leave's not great, but it's not terrible either. 27 points is a good score. And I think even if Gamped was good, the extra 3 points probably outweighed by what's given away by putting a vowel underneath a premium square and the detriment to this rack leave. Not great. I've got the WU combination, which is usually pretty irksome and non-bingo-y. And a slightly harder rack to sort out. It's unbalanced. It has more vowels and consonants, and with the W and the U, it's a hard rack to sort out because I'd like to get rid of both, but there aren't many words which contain both. However, I am still ahead. Wa is good, so I could play Wood across here for a decent score. Rack leave means my next rack is very much in the hands of the gods. Could be good, could be tragic. 39 points is a good score. Now, can I do better than that? This is the first move I've seen. Often the first move is not the best move. However, this does get rid of W and U. And I can't see a way of scoring anything like this anywhere else, so I'm going with it. Well, that pick is amongst the worst options that could have happened. Lots of vowels and a Q without a U or an I. The U of Wood. Well, the U of Wood is available because of Quop. 15 points. Probably just better than changing. An alternative would be to change 5 tiles, retaining ER. And I may do that. I think Quop's going to be on the border, because it's not a great score, and the rack leave is very unbalanced in terms of vowels and consonants. I'm unlikely to bingo next turn, having retained 3 E's and an O. My opponent's provided nothing. Disc only takes an S at the end, so I'm going to change. I'm still ahead by 12 points. And I draw pretty badly. However, Bivvy is good, so all of the tiles I've just drawn could be played in one go, And I can play bivvy at d1 for a pretty good score. I'm just looking to see if that plays anywhere else. And I don't think it does. Well, it plays at f1, but if my d1 spot is taken, the f1 spot may go as well, and in any event, the f1 spot scores significantly less than d1. I'm wondering if wood takes an S for future reference. I'm not sure. Woodst is certainly good. Now, do I have a play down from the eye of disc onto this triple word square? Well, not that I can see. If I had an O, I could play ivory. My Y can go under the K, but the two V's are the problem. I'd certainly like to play off both of them, but as a minimum, I would like to play off one of them. So right now I'm hoping that bivvy at d1 stays available. I have a slender lead of 12 points. I'm struggling to see any other half-decent plays. "16 minutes left, 64 tiles unseen. A number of vowels go between the W and the D, so row I could be useful at some point. My B can go above the O of wood, but nothing goes in front of wa, so I can't use that. My opponent's taken my spot, although bivvy's still available at f1. And, well, that's fortunate. There's a new spot for it, which is still going to score very well, and the rack leave only marginally worse than ER. Okay, well, this is looking slightly more, or a lot more bingo-y. The only caveat being the duplicates. Certainly all the tiles are bingo-y tiles. So, do I have a 7-letter bingo on my rack? Nothing has come to mind. What are the floaters? Well, there's the D of wood. Can't see anything through that. I've got the IER ending, but that isn't prompting any ideas. So this is actually quite a problematic rack, although it's close to a bingo. If I don't have a bingo, I'm going to struggle to score because I've only got 1-point tiles. I'd like to hang on to ERT, so a play of Liri would leave a decent rack leave, and the other decent rack leave would be if I just played off IR somewhere. Well, has my opponent provided anything? I don't have anything which goes in front of a buy. I haven't seen anywhere yet for just IR. There's Kia, but that doesn't feel good. The other possibility was Liri. Well, that does play here. For 11 points. And that's opening the board up a bit, but I don't really mind that. I think the board's likely to be opened at some point anyway. This isn't opening it in a reckless way. And it's not providing any super hot spots for my opponent. I'm not sticking a vowel above a premium square. And my rack leave is pretty good as 3-letter rack leaves go. Now, is there anywhere better for Liri or any alternative plays? I could play Liri at B4, making lie, but that's opening up row A, so the row K placement's certainly superior. Guide takes nothing in front of it. I'm going with this. Great. I have Battler on my rack, and Dib is good. blatter also available. I think those are the only two anagrams. And buy is good, so I'm definitely bingoing next go. So that's worked out quite nicely. BY also good, so my bingo's play in column 2. So I've got three spots available. The best spot will be row L. A play of blatter. I think an L on this double letter square is slightly preferable to an A. Harder for my opponent to play high scoring tiles in column 8, but that's a pretty marginal consideration. Nice bingo by my opponent. 74 points, so he goes into a 40-point lead, and he's taken my preferred spot. That provided quite a few useful floaters. So he's hasn't closed the board down by playing inserts. I'm playing blatter rather than battler because it's possible my opponent may challenge and will lose 5 points. Great, I have tedious and outside. Tedious plays in row A, and I have outsides in row N. And outsides also plays in column 2, so I have back-to-back bingos. Always good. I note for future reference that WDI takes an A in the gap. Still both blanks to come. Quite an open board, so we could be seeing more bingos. BYE takes an A in front, so row A has a hot spot in the top left. Nice score by my opponent for a non-bingo, 52 points, and he's taken out my tedious spot. So I have outsides in row N and in column 2. Both of them open up triple word lanes. So any alternatives? Solitude with the L doesn't play. Toluides also doesn't play. Anything through the I doesn't get doubled. Do I have anything through the T? Can't see anything. Now what about through the R? Outsider doesn't work. IO Duretts doesn't work. Suited doesn't work. And one other. Outsider, IO Duretts, suited. Outrides, and that does work. $72 points, and that's opening the board up with this S, but the S is covering the double letter square in the triple word square lane, and it's leaving the SO inserts available, and it's opening a new bingo lane in row M. So it's opening multiple hotspots, which means I'm not opening just one that my opponent can use. Fantastic. That is a bingo-y rack. I will certainly be bingoing. I've got Tonneau in row M and OU. I could well have a 9-timer in column 15, but my opponent is quite likely to play there. Remaining tiles pretty bingo-y, still with one blank unseen. So it could be my opponent coming in with a massive score in column 15. I have a 50-point lead and I'm guaranteed to bingo next turn. Now let me consider if I do have a 9-timer in column 15. I'll scan the alphabet and see if anything leaps into my mind. So I'm looking for any bingo with an S. I already feel I've probably missed some. Okay, I can forget about that. Now, Tono also plays in column 14, making EA and UN, and not placing a vowel next to this double letter square. Is that the best thing to do? I think it is. Because it's not opening up anything super hot. It is opening up a scoring spot. And when I'm ahead, I want to keep scoring. So a scoring non-bingo spot is more useful for me than it is for an opponent who's needing bingos. I can't really take out this S of inserts. If my opponent does use it to bingo, he'll be opening up new hotspots in row O. And there's still the Q, X, and Z to come, so there's scope for a high-scoring response to a bingo. And I draw two of those high-scoring tiles, the two best ones, the Z and the X. Still one G to come. I mentioned that because Gabby is good. I don't think Abby takes anything else in front. Now, at the moment, I have Zax in column 15, which is exactly the scenario I was talking about. If my opponent does bingo through this S, I've got a monster reply in column 15. Great, that Zax spot remains available. My opponent doesn't bingo, gets a good score, but is still trailing by 60 points. I don't have an I for going underneath the Q, so I don't have anything great. However, my X can go underneath the E, so do I have a two-letter play using the X? Well, I don't. So let's see what this scores. 68 points. That's quite nice. The rack leave is pretty horrendous. Let me look at the remaining vowels. 10 minutes on my clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 vowels out of 15 tiles. Okay, I probably will have a vowel-heavy rack, but I think this is the play, and I think it puts me in a very strong position to win the game. I'm just pausing in case I've overlooked an alternative high-scoring spot for the Z and or the X, and I don't think I have. I draw the second blank, and do have a vowel-heavy rack, not surprisingly. So, are there any floating consonants? Well, there's the L of Lyri. I would have laureate if that L was in a different spot. I have aureate on my rack, and that plays in column 2. Wow. That is quite something, having retained, I think, 4 vowels, and that remains available. Anywhere else for aureate? Well, it doesn't play in row O. Can't see anything through the D. So, aureate for 63. And having kept 4 vowels, I'm now facing a rack of 3 consonants. So quite a turnaround, but I have a substantial lead of 150 points. It's possible my opponent has a bingo, but even if he does, it's not going to be enough to win the game. And I don't think he does. So what can I do with CGN? Through an A, I could play Kang. No. So through an A, I could play Kang. No A available. So I don't think I am going to be going out in 1. There are no A's unplayed. I don't think I can go out through any other vowel. I do have the G for Gabby, but I can't really utilise that without a vowel to any good effect. All those vowels in aureate, and none of them particularly useful for my rack. Probably the best I can do is Gen for 8 points. That's pretty dismal. I don't have anything down from the O. have neg and ne, again for a dismal score. Nine minutes on my opponent's clock and 10 on mine. So neither of us in time trouble. This game has flowed quite well, and I suspect that's partly due to the bingos. Well, I think there's only been 4 of them, so not an absolute avalanche. 31 points for my opponent. He's got CIIT, so he can go out with licit. Does he have any alternative outs? If not, I should be blocking that particular out. Which I think Jen does, but am I then stuck with the C? 9 minutes on my clock. Is there anywhere on this board I can play just C? Well, I can play car, so that's one spot. Is there a second dock? Yes, there is. So is Jen the play? It certainly blocks licit, but does my opponent have an alternative out with issit? Don't think he does, so I'm going with this. I also have orc for 8, which is the same score as car. Just actually looking around to see if my opponent has got an out. The waddy spot never used. Now, can I score more than 8 points with my C? I'm methodically looking down the rows. There's orc. No, so I have orc or car, one of which will definitely play. Eight minutes on my opponent's clock. The end in sight. Well, nothing to do really apart from just wait for my opponent. That's quite a nice position to be in when you're winning the game. Certainly in a tournament it's useful to have a breather, given so many games do go down to the wire. Okay, so 18 for my opponent, so certainly the right thing to do to block licit. Now, has my opponent provided anywhere new for my C? Well, I've got cut, but that's the same score, so I think I'll go with the more exotic play. And just wait for my opponent to formally end the game. Which he does. And the final score, 372 to my opponent, 496 to me, a winning margin of 124 points. So a big, big win. Let's see what I missed. It was me to go fast, and Gauft was good for 32. I played Woff for a lot less, but a much better Rackley, so there probably isn't a huge amount between these plays. Gauft certainly gives a lot of floaters to my opponent and also access to double word squares, which Woff doesn't. Opponent's play. He plays if, and it doesn't look like Gampt was good. What did I do? I played Gampt for 27, keeping DWE. Yep, I think that's as good as anything else. It certainly doesn't give very much away. My opponent plays Opar, and now I have Wood for 39, and that looks best. Double E better than OU. Wow, 3 S's for my opponent. He plays disc for 32. I have a horrible rack. Yeah. And I think changing is either comparable to these moves or better. Opponent's rack. I thought he had dired GCs, but no floating E. Plays Geed. And that gives me bivvy for 40, which is fine. A great get out of jail with a dreadful rack. My opponent's rack. No bingo there. Plays a buy. Great, I didn't miss one with this rack. So, such high probability letters, there's always a worry that one has overlooked a bingo, which is annoying with high probability ones, but I didn't, and I played Leary for 12, and that looks fine. Could have got 8 more points by jettisoning the E. The E isn't worth 8 points, but there is synergy in RET. Riel E10. Oh, making yeah, that's quite nice. But those moves, top 2 moves, probably pretty close. Nice rack for my opponent. Plenty of bingos available. He plays inserts. And now I have Battler and Blatter, and there was a third anagram, Brattle. Okay, but the B4 placement scored most. Opponent's rack, he plays Jeer. I have a great pick and have... look at that. A13 outside. Wood does take an S. Instead, I played outrides for 72, 6 fewer points. But possibly a worse move in the sense that this S in column 15, although it's covering the double letter square, is providing a very easy opportunity for my opponent to score well, especially if he has high scoring tiles. Anyway, he plays Anoles for only 18, and I'm fortunate to draw really well and have a ton of bingos to choose from. So I went for Tono for 69. I could have got 4 more points. That's not many. At F14. Oh wow, running parallel to Anoles. That's quite nice. Opponent's rack plays Querns. And now I have Zax for 68. And that was precisely the point of playing Tono. It gave me an option for a big comeback in the event of my opponent playing a bingo or playing well elsewhere. Opponent's rack, he plays A. I've got a good lead at this point, and I have another bingo. Ori 8 for 63. The bag's empty. I've got CGN. My opponent's got a pretty grim rack. Plays Moo for 31. And now, these plays, well, they don't take into account whether my opponent can go out, so I like my play. My opponent doesn't have an out, so I did block the only one. He plays Sit, and wow, CAG. Having scanned the board meticulously for a place for my C, I overlooked the CAG spot, and I'm pretty sure I saw it earlier, but that happens. 4 points shipped at the death. But in any event, it was a good win by over 100 points and nearly 500 points racked up. So a pretty exciting game. I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I will see you next time.